Okay, very excited. I have a very special guest today, Colin Mochrie, which is insane. He is the only verifiable celebrity I've ever had on my show. He is a wonderfully funny, obviously funny, but a really sweet guy. And I got to meet him with when I did Single White Spenny, also known as Single Season Spenny. And oddly enough, his actual wife, real life wife, plays my mother in the series. And we'll show a few clips from that. So enough of me. Would you please welcome in a podcast kind of way, Mr. Colin Mochrie?
Spencer, sorry I'm late, but I had a fabulous session with Dr. Schneiderman. He's not a clock watcher like the others.
Did you talk to him about my problem?
Yeah, didn't grab him.
Oh, come on, didn't grab him. Revenge sex is killing me.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do for you. My dentist, Dr. Brickman, loves a good story.
You want me to get psychiatric help from a dentist?
Well, he's more easily impressed than Dr. Schneiderman, and you end up with a nice toothbrush.
Ow. So where are you at right now? Still with the lawyer?
I'm done with the lawyer.
Huh?
I moved on to her with her friends, broken promises, and people who said they'd help me move and didn't.
Interesting.
So, is there any hope for me?
Revenge sex is like an abscess. You have to let the anger drain from you. And the only way to do that is... You know what?
Have sex with every woman that crossed me?
It's the only way. You're looking good for someone who never flosses. Make an appointment on the way out. Pick color.
Yellow.
Interesting.
Hey!
Some of my best work, I have to say.
The highlight of your career, no doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Just very quickly, we'll go into what you do and who you are, because there's some young people that might not know what I have here with me right now.
Yeah.
And I want to talk just a little bit about Single White Spenny just at the top of this, and then we'll get into the more important stuff. So how did you get that gig? Because I know that we casted your wife because David Steinberg loves her.
Yeah.
And is that and how did you get the gig? I was so overwhelmed that I don't remember how anything happened.
You know what? I don't really either. I think they just offered it to me because of my association with Deb.
Nepotism.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm totally behind that. If I can get work without auditioning for anything, and let me just say, I think it's criminal that Single White Spenny was only one season. It was a really good show. Great cast, really funny writing. Yeah, I think it was a crime.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Look, the reality was, again, not to talk too much about this, but CanWest Global was taken over by Shaw, and they cleaned house with all of the comedy. Yeah. So the Trailer Park Boys, Kenny versus Spenny, it was all gone, and then it was all cop shows with women, hot women cops. And that's what the network became. So that's the biz. You can't be bitter. I have to say it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I'm a completely untrained buffoon, and I got to have my own sitcom for 8 episodes. It's surreal, and worked with you and your wife. It was just a fantastic experience. And speaking of Deb McGrath, Colin's wife, let's run a quick clip of a scene I did with her. She plays my mother. In the series, it's loosely based on my actual mother, who had zero mothering instincts, completely devoid of them. So that was her character. She was my mom, and she was wonderful, did everything but be a good mother. So in this particular episode, I'm cheating on her because I've met another woman that I think is going to be a better mother. And this is when we all meet at the restaurant. If you could roll the clip, Johnny.
Spenny, you don't have to do this.
I'm not going behind my mother's back anymore. For the first time in my life, I know what it means to be mothered, and it's about time she figured it out.
I'm proud of you. Now sit up straight.
You're right. Good posture is important.
Spencer, what's the matter with your back? You look stiff.
Sheila, I'd like you to meet Ellie.
Enchanté.
Oh.
Enchanté. Now, Mother, what I'm about to tell you is the most difficult thing I've ever had to tell anyone. Mother! What I'm about to tell you is the most difficult thing I've ever had to tell anyone in my entire life, and I'm drawing on all of my faith just to get through it. You can at least pay attention.
Do you think the sea bass is wild or farmed? If it's farmed, they swim in their own feces. What are you gonna have?
Not the sea bass.
So, Spenny, you were saying?
Ellie and I, we have a relationship, and it's moving forward at a very fast pace, and we thought it was only fair for us to tell you. Ellie cherishes me. She fusses over me. She makes me wash my hands after I go duty. She's everything that you're not. There, I said it.
Is this true? Have you been mothering Spencer behind my back?
Only because he's not getting it at home.
I see. Well, clearly there's one too many mothers here. Oh, and when Spencer was breastfeeding, he used his teeth. The marks around my nipples have never healed. I hope he goes easier on you.
That actually went easier than I thought it would.
Oh man, she's amazing. Give her a big hug and kiss for me, please.
I will. She's pretty good. It always amazes me that those are the parts she tends to play, and she's nothing like that in real life. She's
Right.
very pathetic. She's lovely, but she gets to play.
She taught me how to power nap, which she did.
Oh yeah, no, she's a great mentor.
All right, let's talk about you. My understanding is that you've just signed up for the 18th season of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Is that true?
It could be. It's been going on for as long as my first show, my daughter was 2 months old. She just turned 31. So yeah, we've been doing it for a while. We did, I think, nine seasons in Britain. Then there was 8 seasons with Drew. Yeah, now like another 9 seasons with Aisha.
Aisha. Okay. Yeah.
I'm shocked that it's still happening, but thank God.
You know what? It's a skill that you have that very few have. So who's the host? Oh, Aisha's the host. Sorry, who are the other improvers?
A lot of the old guys. Ryan Stiles, Wayne Brady, Greg Proops, Brad Sherwood. Then there's younger people.
And where are you shooting it? In Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles. It's the best. I mean, it is the best gig ever. It's 2 weekends out of the year.
Unbelievable. So you just marathon shoot a whole season in 2 days?
Yeah, we shoot Friday, Saturday, Sunday, do like 22 games a taping, and then head home.
Well, how many audiences how many audiences?
Just one audience per day.
Per day.
Yeah.
Wow. And how long did they sit there?
They sit there for 4 hours. The first 3 hours is basically the games, which is fine. The last hour is when we actually do the most work, because it's all while the show is happening. The producer is cutting the show into 5 different shows. So the next little while is him getting Aisha to go, all right, and now we're going to do greatest hits, or welcome back. We're now going to do moving bodies. So that's when we have to really entertain the audience, because it's boring. The studio is always kept at 66 degrees, so it's freezing. Yeah.
So I'm, not only am I jealous of your success, I'm jealous of your ability to improv, because to me that's like you could be completely lazy. You just show up, and you improv.
There's no doubt about it. It is the lazy man's art. You just show up. You don't even have to. You get the audience to shout out the ideas for the scene.
Right. You don't even have to do that.
No, you just go, oh, hey, that's good. Let's do that.
So when did you realize that you could do this?
I didn't actually know until I did it. I mean, when I was growing up, nobody knew what improv was. It really wasn't a thing. Jonathan Winters, I think, was the only person who was sort of known for that. And then Robin Williams came along. But it really wasn't until Whose Line that improv became sort of mainstream. So when I first saw it, I was in theater school. And I thought, oh, that looks like fun. It's the perfect lazy man sport. And I got involved and found I could do it. And I was really lucky in that I've always been in groups where there have been amazing improvisers. So I learned very quickly off them what to do and what not to do.
It's amazing. It's an amazing talent. Oddly enough, Single White Spenny was supposed to be an improv style, the way Larry David does Curb Your Enthusiasm. But when that change happened and Shaw took over from CanWest Global on the media conglomerate thing, they decided that it had to be scripted. And Kenny versus Spenny, which, I mean, it's not improv in the traditional sense that you do it, but it was completely improv. There was no script. You know, I just knew him really well, Kenny, and we knew each other, and we had some comedy chops. But yeah, it's a tremendous, all these years, 18 seasons. That's fantastic.
I mean, it's a great skill. I mean, it's a good skill to have in real life too, just to be able to. I mean, people always say it's so hard, and it isn't. It's just you do things you don't do in real life. You listen and accept ideas. That's
and
it.
the lying you could get away with, just complete.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
Yes. It's all about, looking sincere. And once you can fake that, you're set.
Well, congratulations on yet another season. Now, there's a project that you're doing, which it really resonated with me, called Hypprov.
Yes.
Okay. Is that a new project?
It's fairly
It's alive?
Yeah. It's me and a hypnotist. He hypnotizes people, and then I improvise with them.
You're not going to believe this, but I did that too.
Really?
Yeah, I had a manager for a while named Tony Lee, and he was a hypnotist entertainer. And when I started working with him, he was really big on the college and university circuit. So it's not as formal as what you guys are doing, but I would go to his gigs because he was a pal as well. And he'd throw me up on stage with the people that were in a trance state. And unfortunately, I never had your probably ability to think on the spot. So I meant immediately to sing the Canadian national anthem in Chinese, you know, that kind of stuff. And I literally couldn't think of anything else half the time. But what do you think of that whole, is it, because when you're a comedian or just a non-hypnotist and you're working with these guys and you're right there on stage, it's real. Like, I know it's
absolutely.
Obviously, yeah. What's your take on it?
It's odd because we've taken two art forms that people don't really believe in,
right?
Hypnotism and improv, and put them in one spot. It's fascinating. I've gotten to the point now. The first 20 minutes is Assad putting people under, and I'm off stage. And as I'm watching, I go, okay, they're faking, they're under. And when you're improvising with them, it's amazing. Every night we have a star. We have someone who we've unlocked their improv. There was one woman who, afterwards I was talking to her and she said, I suffer from like crippling social anxiety. I have no idea why I volunteered. She was the star. She said, I've never felt that relaxed in my entire life. So she was going out to find improv groups and going to start taking that up. It's just fascinating.
And there's always, you're right, that breakout character, the person who's funnier than anybody turns out under a trance state.
And they're just going, like, afterwards I always say, because I had all these misconceptions about hypnotism also.
Yeah.
And I said, so what do you remember? And they said, oh, everything. It's just everything you said sounded like such a great idea. So
you know how I was skeptical, and I went to a hypnotist show in Scarborough, Ontario, many, many years ago, before I was ever had a thought of being in show business. And my girlfriend at the time was picked with her friend to go up and be subjects in the show. And the friend was this sort of really big, like close to 300-pound faux hoser biker guy, right? And the hypnotist had him have a baby or go through childbirth, like he was in the stirrups and the whole thing. And it was hilarious. And we were all killing ourselves. And I looked over at Wanda, was her name. And this is like, there's no way if she was sitting at the table with us, she wouldn't be pissing herself laughing. And I looked over at her and she's just there in a trance state, completely. And that's when I realized, oh my God, this is real. Like, because there's no way she wouldn't have been able to laugh.
When we were doing some practice shows, because we really couldn't rehearse, we had to kind of do it. And Deb came to see one, and she was in the audience and started to go under. Our daughter was trying to wake her up. Always a good thing to know, though, that your wife is very highly suggestible. Yes.
And that's the word. Once when Tony was doing a sound check at a show, I think it was at Carleton University, there was a girl, I was way before the show, that was at an empty pub, but there was a girl sitting at a table studying, and she went into a trance from the sound check. She was like sleeping on the thing.
Yes,
it was insane.
People are just so in tune for that kind of thing and just ready for it.
So you wrote a book. I'm sorry I haven't read it, but it sounds amazing. So you take the first line
Yeah.
of like a book like Moby Dick, and then the last line, and you fill in. And I guess what I thought of, now, do you do it like improv? You just write your story, or is that something where it was more traditional in terms of you just thought out something?
No, I just thought, well, first of all, I didn't want to write a book. My
Yeah.
agent made me do it. So
Okay.
I thought that would be the best way to do it, just through improvising. And most of my research was trying to find classic novels that had a great opening line and a great closing line, and there weren't that many. They
Right.
either had a great opening or a great closing. They didn't have, like the last one of Moby Dick. I mean, I made it work kind of, but it's like a one-on sentence for like 20 minutes. But it was the very first one I did was it was a Sherlock Holmes story, and it just flowed out of me, and I thought, oh, I don't know why these writers complain. This is like the easiest thing in the world, and that was the last fun moment I had writing that.
Yeah.
Everyone after that was like, come on, come on.
It's painstakingly horrible,
Oh, horrific.
horrible work. I agree with you 100%. So have you done any stand-up? I couldn't find anything that could you do stand-up if you've never done it, do you think?
No, I have nothing but the deepest respect. I accidentally did it once. I was doing Whose Line, was filming Whose Line, and I got a call from a publicist saying they have this event at Spago's, and they want you to host it. It's for Vegas. They want more people to come to Vegas to film, so you'd host it. And I hate hosting, but I thought, you know what? Maybe it's time to start doing these things that I hate and see if there's a way I can get around it. So a couple of days later, I get a fax, shows you how long ago it was. And the fax says, Colin opens with 20 minutes of stand-up. And I called the person and said, I don't know if you know what I do, but it's not stand-up. I don't have an act. And they said, well, just be funny for 20 minutes. I was shooting Whose Line. I went up to Drew Carey and said, Drew, I have to do this stand-up thing for 20 minutes. Do you have any tips? He said, man, get out of it. And I thought, I got it. So I went, and there was no stage. I was basically on the floor, surrounded. Everybody was schmoozing. Two guys, thank God, were watching me. I kind of did this improv thing. At one point, the promoter stood up and said, for God's sake, listen to him. He's trying his best. It was just horrific. Before I started, they said, we have to hold 10 minutes because Spielberg's coming. And then it turned out it was Steven Seagal. So there was nothing at all that was positive about it, except I realized this is not for me. This is for professionals.
It is. Yeah. And that's why I did it for a while. I was pretty horrible, frankly. And I didn't put the time in. It's like anything in life. You got to put the time in.
Yeah.
And you can't just go out there and wing it,
Who wants to do that?
Well, you can go out there and wing it, but in a different context when you're working with.
No.
Yeah, no, I know, but wing it at least in an improv sense. So like everybody I know that's successful in comedy, they're somewhat of the comedy nerds. They know the history of comedy. I've heard you talk about your show of shows and Jack Benny and all this stuff. I'm like that too. So if you could talk a little bit about maybe who some of your heroes were. Sid Caesar, I know it meant a lot to you.
Yeah, a big Sid Caesar fan. I was big into Bob Hope movies, like the road movies with Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
I got my daughter into those, which was like it felt like a little victory because she would go, "Oh, they're breaking the fourth wall," and I said, "Yes, there's nothing that hasn't been done. It's all been done." And when I was growing up, I just feel like I was watching television 24 hours a day. Like the Dick Van Dyke Show was like a big one. And the Carol Burnett Show, Dean Martin Show. Just anyone who would make me laugh, I would sort of watch and go, why do I find them funny? What are they doing? And, sometimes it was just, they had that thing that you can't learn. They're just funny. And then there were some, they're funny because of the character they've come up with and the writing. And so from as long as I can remember, I was always drawn to comedy, SCTV, of course, Monty Python, just people who would make me laugh. I thought, I never thought I was going to do it until I got my first laugh in a school play. And then I thought, yeah, I want this now. all the time.
It
So,
always what struck me about comedy was that there is that measuring stick of laughter. Can you imagine doing drama and you have no idea if
no,
you're
you don't know if
doing
it's
well or
working.
terrible?
No, and anyone can do drama. You can say, well, did it get laughs? Then it was a success.
Do you have and you can say no to this, obviously. Do you have a favorite joke? We all have favorite jokes or one that you like.
Uh, oh, I feel like I should. Well, I have one, and it's not I have this one joke, which you've probably heard. It's this priest, this minister at his church. They tell him that there was a speaker that's going to talk to the women's club tonight, and they're talking about sex. Can you do it for them? And he said, okay. He was a little embarrassed, but he said, yeah, I can do it. So he goes home, and his wife says, well, what are you doing tonight? He says, oh, I have to give this little speech to the women's club. And she says, about what? And he doesn't want, he's a little embarrassed. So he says, about sailing. It's all about sailing. So the next day, his wife is at the supermarket, meets one of the women from the club, and the woman says, I have to say, your husband, when he was speaking about that subject, was just amazing. It was the best speech I ever heard. And the wife said, really? Because he's only done it twice. The first time he got sick, and the second time his hat blew off.
Oh my Lord. His hat blew off.
Yes.
Okay.
No, it makes you think.
I'm laughing. Right you got your barometer right there. Okay, favorite, and I use the word favorite, not best, intentionally. Favorite male comedian, favorite female comedian. Not, you can't say Deb.
All right. Favorite male comedian. I'm going to say Steve Carell. I love his commitment, and it's the same with my female comedian, Kristen Wiig. They have just such commitment to the characters and to whatever the situation is. They can both think fast on their feet, and those are the people I think, oh God, I would so love to work with them.
So if you must have seen Christian Wiig's, was it Liza Minnelli turns the light bulb off? That is one of the funniest.
And Margaret, yeah. And
no,
I'm a big Anne Margaret fan.
And Margaret.
Anne Margaret is one of my hall passes.
But she's not she's okay. Well, yeah.
At this point, I think I would break her hip. But still,
in the entire world, yeah, is on that list for her. She dated Elvis,
I know.
And Elvis didn't want to marry her because she wanted to have a career, which is interesting.
He was troubled.
Yes, he was troubled king. So are you always on? I think I know the answer.
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I mean, I think that would be, for one thing, I would not have been married 33 years because that would, I would think, be very tiring.
Yes.
I mean, we laugh a lot here, and Deb is very funny, but when we go to parties or something, she's the storyteller. She's the person who's the life of the party. I tend to sit back. I enjoy listening to people. I enjoy hearing them tell stories.
Okay. And other than this that you're doing with me now, what is your worst live performance experience that you've ever had?
Oh, geez.
There's so many.
I mean, there are so many. Well, there was one Deb and I did it was for the advertising awards. We were in New York, and we had like 12 bits that we had come up with. And we go out and we do our intro, and we immediately realize they don't want us to do anything. They want their awards. They want a drink. So we say to the stage manager, you know what? We feel it's best if we just, go on with the awards, keep the show moving, and not do any of these bits. And he said, you know what? I totally agree with you. Let me just talk to the producers. Then he comes back. You have to do the bits. So it was just horrendous. People shouting at us, telling us to get off the stage, get out of the way. And of course, afterwards, we're just like hating these people. Well, one of the organizers at one point stood up and said again, you are the most disgusting group of people I've ever come across, and I've been part of this. And we go up, we decided to go to the bar at the top of the hotel and have a few drinks. and we get in, and it's packed with people from that gig, and they're all going, "You guys were so wonderful. We're going to see you again next year." And it's like, what the, no.
Yeah, no, thank you. But that's in the mafia. They have that thing. You make your bones. That's in comedy to me. If you can survive that and go back the next day to do another gig, then you've made your bones.
Yeah, those corporates, man. I always say a day without laughter is a corporate.
Yeah, it's a corporate gig. So I had a look on your Twitter. Your Twitter feed. I thought it was maybe Mother Teresa's. You seem to be very compassionate and generous in how you treat social media. I don't know if that embarrasses you, but I was quite amazed by it.
The world, Spenny. I'm trying to turn Twitter into one big positive experience. How's it
Good
going?
luck.
Yeah, it's not going to work. Yeah, I mean, I've been incredibly fortunate. I'm making a living doing a thing that didn't exist when I was growing up, something I love doing, and the only reason is because this one show came along that showcased the one thing I can do. So to me, it just, and Deb is such a charity person, someone who is always there to give. So I've also learned from her about how how to give and pay it forward. So yeah, it's so easy just to retweet something. And
my guess is, and of course you won't tell me the truth, but that you're quite happy, because without gratitude there is no happiness. That I think is an absolute truism that there's no exceptions to. So yes, I feel the same way, though my Twitter feed is more like a sewer, which leads me to my next thing, which is, and you can say no to this.
Okay.
Is there? Do you like talking politics? Some entertainers, they don't.
Yeah. I'm not that. When we do our improv shows, we basically go, we're not going to take anything political, just because I think to be very funny in a political sense, you have to write it. You have to have that point of view, as opposed to we go, what a dick. That's our entire political stance. But go ahead.
Okay. You did say anything at the beginning, so I'll take advantage. Where are you on the whole censorship issue when it comes to comedians? And my understanding is, I don't know if you've heard this or not, that Seinfeld won't play university and college campuses anymore because of the inability for a comedian to really do his thing without there being, I don't know, subcultures that complain that it has to be so politically correct and unoffensive.
Yeah, and I'm trying, and I like Seinfeld. I can't think of anything he would do that would where people would.
No, I don't. It's not him. No, he's doing it for his friends. Yeah,
I found. Doing our show, there are some times where the audience makes a jump to a joke that hasn't been made. So you'll say something and they'll go to some offshoot of that where it is offensive, but that's nothing like what you meant. I think people are so knee-jerky right now, if that's even a word. I do believe that comedians have a responsibility to punch above their weight, to go for the people who are in power, for the people who deserve to be taken down. Mm-hmm. And there's times I look back on things we did when I first started improvising that just make my body break out in a deep sweat. Homophobic, transphobic things, racist, misogynist, because it was a time when, for whatever, you just weren't aware. You didn't think, I just insulted an entire section of the population.
But doesn't intent come into it? I mean, I don't know.
But it still hurts. And so when I think back at that time, I think, that was horrible. So I'm more aware of it.
Okay.
But
fair enough.
My problem with the cancel culture is it's like if you make one mistake, it seems that that's it. There's no coming back from it. Is there a way, like during the Me Too things, and there was a lot of horrible things, but I think of the people who did something maybe inappropriate one time. Is that them gone now? They can no longer say, I've learned from that mistake. I'm so sorry.
Well, I think it depends on what the transgression is. If you're Harvey Weinstein,
and absolutely,
right? No. But if and I always like to use the what's his name, the redheaded comedian.
I'm just going to go for Carrot Top. I'm sure it's not him.
No, it's not Carrot.
CK.
Louis C.K. Thank you, Jonathan. His transgression was embarrassing, in poor taste, but no one was hurt. I don't think there probably was no ill intent. And I think he's been given, I think in America especially, they give you like a 5-year stand in the corner, and then
They do love a comeback story.
yes, and then they let you come back. But okay, well,
coming back from masturbating at a rubber plant or something, that's not.
no,
There are
exactly.
further ways to come back.
Yes. Well, on behalf of all rubber plants, I'm deeply offended. Colin, I'm not going to take up more of your time. Thank you so much for doing this. You're amazing. I'm going to tune in. I hope everybody watches the new season of Whose Line Is It Anyway? And if you happen to see his Hypprov show, go check that out, because I've done it, and they are funny shows. They're really amazing. And to have your mind. Yeah.
Plug.
Yeah, of course.
February 18th on Prime Video, there's a show called LOL Canada. It's 10 comedians in a room for 6 hours. The last one who doesn't laugh wins.
Now, I've seen the promos for that, and I know Tom's on it. Tom Green, is he on it with you?
Great. Yeah.
So what? How?
It's insane.
I immediately thought, oh, gosh, that's a great premise. Is it fun?
Yeah, it started in Japan. They have one in Germany, France. I've watched all the other ones. It's interesting watching all the different comic sensibilities of the different countries. But in every show, there's someone who has a fart machine.
Well, that's the common denominator.
Universal.
You know, on Kenny versus Spenny, one of our competitions was who could make the other guy laugh. So I kind of experienced it, but that's having 10 really funny people all around it at once. That must be.
It was really fun and weird.
All right. Well, thank you again. Have a great Sunday. Give Deb a huge hug for me, and all the best.
Stay
You're
safe.
awesome. Okay, you too.